Well, this Chalk Talk this week is going to be called Game Time, and I'm going to tell you right now, hang with me a little bit because we actually have time. And this final play of the Seahawks game is going to take a little time to break down all the machinations that went into the final 15 seconds of real time as that play clock is ticking down and the Seahawks ultimately throw a non-successful fade route to Jermaine Kearse, which, by the way, was not the play call, and I'll get to that here in just a second. To understand this moment, though, and to understand kind of the magnitude and how quickly things happen and just how much goes into number 3 processing at the line of scrimmage, well, you come up to the line, and like we've talked about in Chalk Talk many times, where is my tell? The Seahawks clearly call a play anticipating zone coverage. You get in that moment, they were ready, they were prepared, they had done their study, they'd been in the red zone before, and they anticipated in this moment of truth, this final snap of the game from the 10-yard line, that New Orleans would say, you know what, we're going to sit in zone and we're going to trust our numbers and our pass rush against this offensive line, and we're going to trust them to make the critical play at the end. That's the Seahawks thought process. That's a play call. So anybody saying, why in the world would you not design a play to go to number 88 or 89? The Seahawks did. They get into a 6-man protection, as it was called, and these two run zone beater kind of routes. Unfortunately, well, Russell Wilson in the final seconds as the play clock is ticking down realizes, hold on a second, I don't have zone coverage. He's reading the body language of the linebacker. He's studying the eyes of the free safety who starts to creep up and before long shows that tell with about 10 seconds to go on the play clock and realizes, number 3 does, I don't have zone coverage. I don't have these routes that are going to beat zone coverage and let these two do their thing. I've got man-to-man coverage, and I got to protect myself because I got a blitz coming, and I don't have enough ammunition to protect it. So in that moment, Russell says, okay, CJ, I need you over here. We're going to slide protect, and I'm going to bring in protection to block up anything that the Saints throw at me. And then I've got Doug and Tyler and Jermaine in one-on-one situations, and I'll kind of pick my poison at that point. And once CJ moves over, you see their coverage equally move over. You begin to see that stunt with the ball snapped come into play. They actually bungle up this stunt. 3 guys create a log jam as George Fant comes and squeezes. Kudos to you, CJ Procise. I'm Paul Kruger. You nailed it. You did a wonderful job in your protection, and they actually kind of protect this whole mess up. Unfortunately, you've got Jimmy not on a man-beating route, and he's just kind of on a searching zone route. Doug equally is on a zone route. And if you look at this on tape, you got a fade versus off coverage. Not a good deal. Fade versus off coverage. So really, this is dead. And it comes down to Russell's decision-making in this moment. And in this moment of truth right here, when he says, I got pressure, I've got heat coming, I'm going to get to my protection, and I've got Jermaine on a fade, or I've got Doug, just kind of on a search route versus this off coverage, what am I going to choose? He ultimately chooses Jermaine. He ultimately throws it about a yard too far and out of bounds, and it's left everyone scratching their head of why. Why would you not throw to one of these 2 guys in that moment? And that's something for Russell, obviously, to reconsider, and he will. And he will scout himself, and he will evaluate himself. And in that moment, too, and I said it on my radio show, in fact, this week, it would be best if you had a route in both a zone and a man-beating route to get to, and he could check it. But then you know what happens? Then all of a sudden he makes a check, and these guys call out of their blitz. And he checks to a man-beating route, and guess what they do? They check out via hand signal back to their zone coverage, and that back and forth in that moment that it's all counting down, and it's chaos, and it's loud, and I'm playing this game of chess, and I'm playing this game of checkers, and I'm making this move, and you're making this move. And unfortunately, if this ball is 1 yard shorter, Jermaine may go and get it. Or unfortunately, if he would have indeed thrown a rocket shot to Doug Baldwin on the goal line, there was enough separation here, but there's a lot of unfortunately's, and that's what you're left with. When the money down in the game time situation, you're just unable to get that vital completion.